Today's guest has mastered the art of transforming tragedy into purpose and has built a global tea empire in the process. After dropping out of college to become his mother's primary caretaker, Steve Schwartz embarked on a journey that would take him from studying ancient Ayurvedic medicine to sourcing the top 1% to 2% of tea leaves from a family farm all across the world. Starting with just $2,500 in credit card debt, blending teas in his living room, he caught the attention of Wolfgang Puck in Caesar's Palace and eventually creating the first tea sommelier position in America, and of course building the art of tea into a vertically integrated powerhouse that has redefined what premium tea can be. In this episode, we'll uncover the secrets behind sourcing the world's most exclusive tea, explore his incredible journey and strategy that built a crisis-proof business model, and dive deep into the incredible journey of pivoting multiple times over multiple decades while creating a global powerhouse in the tea world. This episode is brought to you by Fermat, the platform that's quietly powering brands like Buy Sell, Backcountry, Unilever, Glossier, Adapt Naturals, GNC, Ilia Cosmetics, as seen on TV, and has been partnering with the leading agencies such as Tenuti, Common Thread Collective. So while you're debating which MarTech tool to sunset, these brands are building high-converting funnels faster than you can say growth loop. Fermat lets you launch campaign-specific landing pages with zero dev time, built-in heat maps, and an AI strategy that actually makes sense. So no more Frankenstein funnels, 14 tabs to change a CTA. If your team is lean, but your goals are not, head to fermatcommerce.com. It's basically like Shopify and Figma had a very fast and very smart baby. Check it out. Steve Schwartz, welcome to the Founder to Founder podcast.
Thanks, brother. It's an honor to be here. This is going to be great.
Today we have the king of tea and someone who's taught me so much about tea that I think everyone listening today is going to fall in love with this story. So if you can, take us to where this art of tea for you started.
Wow. Okay. So we'll get a little heavy at the start. Okay, but I promise we'll make it light. I got a full paid scholarship out of high school to go to college, and then 6 months into it, my mom got diagnosed with brain cancer. So I dropped out of college and I moved back in with her, and I was her primary caretaker. So we went from one oncologist, another oncologist, one Western doctor to another Western doctor, and nothing worked for my mom. And so after 10 months, she passed. And what happened is it really woke me up. It got me thinking more about health and wellness. And I thought to myself, I need to help understand my body a bit better, help my family, my loved ones, my community. And I found this school in New Mexico called the Ayurvedic Institute. And what it did was it focused on Eastern and Western medicine together. And I fell in love with the alchemy of blending herbs and botanicals and teas, so much so that I was chosen as the only student advanced enough to work with the masters at my school on how to blend and how to source. And I remember this is, while I was working there, my responsibility at the pharmacy was to source these different ingredients. And this is before the internet really took off. So I was faxing, suppliers, looking in old Indian phone books, and phone calls were like $2 and something a minute. And so I was on a call with the supplier and I said, I need to order some ginkgo. And he said, okay, do you want ginkgo on an Eastern slope or a Western slope next to a river? And I said, it doesn't matter. I just need to order ginkgo. And he said, no, sir, it does matter. And you should come here yourself and experience it. So I was intrigued. I saved my money. I worked 4 different jobs. I cleaned houses. I bussed tables. I was working at the school and in school, and it just saved my money. I got a backpack and started traveling around the world to find the best botanicals and teas possible. So I had no idea that I was going to start a tea company. I just knew that I was a huge tea nerd and into it, and started bringing stuff back for friends and family. And then caught the attention of a chef, Wolfgang Puck, out of Los Angeles, where I was living. And, they said, we know a lot about coffee. We know a lot about where our fish comes from and our kale, but we have no idea where our tea comes from. Can you help educate us? So ended up training their team and getting things started out of my living room. And that's really how it started.
That's unbelievable.
Thanks.
I remember once you told me that most people never really taste real tea. They just taste mostly dust or powder. Tell me about that.
So when you go to a typical supermarket and you find a shelf tea, who knows how long that might have been sitting on the shelf, right? I'd like you to think about getting a bag of unsalted, unflavored chips. So on the top of the bag, you get these perfect uniform shapes. And as you work your way down to the bottom, you just get powder or dust. So what ends up happening is at the factories, they end up producing the tea by roasting it, baking it, sorting it. The dust flies up in the air, falls on the ground. They sweep that in giant piles.
No.
And that's what's reserved for traditional supermarket tea bags. Plus, a lot of the bags these days have microplastics and staples, formaldehyde, all sorts of other weird stuff baked into the bag itself. And so we've had a really clear stance of offering what we source is the top 1% to 2% of all teas that are produced in the world. Then we're doing our own hand blending, our own packing, and our own fulfillment. And our bags are microplastic free. They're made out of a plant-based derivative, no glues or binders or anything like that. So you get the whole leaf experience.
It's unbelievable. I remember the first time we chatted, you were like, you got to try the tea. And in my head, I was like, I know I've drinking so much tea, but it wasn't until I got that box of The Art of Tea that you dropped off at my house where I was like, I ran through that box, by the way. And I remember this Earl Grey that I'm drinking here.
And you got me on a methylene blue.
Oh, really? Okay, we'll get into that. But, you speak a lot about rituals. And, talk to me a little bit about the tea ritual for you. Because, a coffee sometimes I just press a button or I make an espresso and it's quite simple. It's not really a ritual. But you speak about taking, 5 to 7 minutes to really practice drinking and preparing the tea. So kind of walk me through that.
Yeah. So, the idea of pushing a button, it's a society of rinse and repeat. We're on autopilot with so much of what we do. This 80 to 90% of what we do throughout the day is autopilot. So what could we do to break through that mold a bit? And tea allows us that moment in time where we can get the water ready. We can select our leaves, watch the leaves unfurl in our cup, take in that aroma, and be really mindful in that process. So that's the ritual aspect, just the prep. Then there's the components within the tea, the polyphenols, the flavonoids, the catechins, all the good stuff for you that helps create what we call tea mind. And it's that elevating feeling that you get from tea and that de-stressing, calming feeling based on all those other proponents within tea that make you into the moment hyper aware and hyper focused that you just can't do with coffee. Coffee has this uplifting feeling that you get from the musculoskeletal system. But tea stimulates the thyroid and the mental facilities. So you can stay really focused, very present. So if you're going to do your presentation, you're going to be connecting with your employees. You're going to be presenting to investors. You're going to be presenting to a potential customer, and you need to be fully mentally on. Tea gets you in that frame of mind.
Wow.
More than anything else that's out there.
It's
magical. Phenomenal. It is magical.
One thing I love that you do, and I'm curious, I want you to talk more to this because it's almost like a juxtaposition to overall business. And you once told me that you love a steady growth rather than a hockey stick growth. And I'm curious.
And you're a hockey player, man. I feel bad using that analogy, but
like at what point in your journey did you decide that you necessarily didn't want to experience a hockey stick growth, rather slow and steady growth over a long period of time?
Yeah. I'd say it's a struggle every day. Like you see these huge wins where it's a $1 billion valuation. They've only been in business for 4 years. Someone very wise once told me that imagine having a puppy, loving the puppy, and then you have someone knock on your door and they give you a check for this puppy. And everyone's like excited because you got this check, and then you want to, let's party, and you're the one paying for the party, right? So
yeah,
do you remember sharing
I know what
that
that's
story?
like. Yeah,
you're the one that
I shared that at the mastermind.
Yeah,
we did at the club.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I battle with that on a daily basis of like, okay, we want to make sure that we're growing. At the same time, we want to make sure that we're building something that lasts multiple generations. I'm only on this planet for, God willing, 120 years. But with that in mind, like I have to hopefully build something that's going to last generationally. That's going to be something that will impact the future. So the decisions that we're making today, the course corrections, the brand design, the source supplies, I just got back from Japan working with our different farmers and seeing what we can do to really help make sure that the stable supply of this crazy matcha demand that's happening around the world right now, we're building intentional relationships that we hope will plant the seed for what few generations from now we'll look back and say, wow, thank goodness that they built some of these strong foundations rather than this quick, rapid growth, which, believe me, sounds sexy. It sounds awesome. It sounds exciting. But I know that I have this ethical responsibility to build something that will have a lasting impact.
What you're talking about is really profound in the sense that most entrepreneurs, when they start a business, perhaps they have a vision or they have a idea for the greater impact that they want to have in the world. But what you're describing is actually what I had to learn in a beautiful and in a hard way, the essence of the game and business as a vehicle to leave a stamp on the generation that you're in. Because like you said, we're not on this earth forever. We have a period of time, and it's so powerful to be able to build something with the horizon being multi-generational. Most entrepreneurs are listening to this and they try to build, like you said, the 4-year exit or the 5-year exit or the 10-year. And you make different types of decisions, shorter decisions, quicker ones, perhaps ones that don't really benefit the long term, but the short term. And I find it very peaceful sometimes to know that you're building something for a long period of time, which I'm doing now. And it's like the most fun I've ever had.
Wow.
But where did that come from for you? Because most people in the beginning, when they're just starting out or figuring out the business, all you want to do is grow as fast as possible and make money and prove yourself out in the world. How did you decide that this was going to be a multi-generational business that was going to last way beyond you?
So we should always have the end in mind. When you're starting your business, what does it look like? What does your life look like? And you've done such a phenomenal job of cascading out what setting a vision means for your life. And I think you're a phenomenal example for so many people of what that mindset and that narrative verse looks like. And with that in mind, I don't want to go down with the ship. Like it would be unethical of me to continue to take this as far as I can. There's going to be someone smarter and faster and better, especially with the way that AI technology is going, that I have to do everything I can to lift it to a certain place where that I could continue to build on that momentum. In my time travels in Israel and my time travels in throughout Asia, I've seen this huge difference between the American society of you build and you flip and you build and you flip. And believe me, again, I think there's something really fun and interesting and sexy about that. And I've also seen how it is in Asia and in the Middle East of like this time-tested technique. This is how we harvest this botanical. This is how we work with our craft. This is how we build a tribe around what we're doing. And we've been doing it for 90 years. We've been doing it for 300 years. And I think that there's something that we can learn from this timeless wisdom. And so I think that there's an opportunity for tea to continue to have a moment. It's becoming a very crowded space. And when people think of tea or when they think of coffee or they think of these other sort of beverages, it's a category. And I believe that there's time and space for people to continue to think of tea as a moment that they can connect not just with the leaves and water, but also with what a brand can do in that presence, in that space. So we're trying to break that mold of being a commodity to now being something that's part of their daily lives and their ritual.
Does not putting your product in supermarkets have something to do with breaking that mold?
Yeah. Great question. And we were at one point in time, we were in like 26 Whole Foods, and what we found was like one day we'd be on like eye level shelf, and the next day we'd be taken out, and one day we'd be on an end cap, and it was just a completely different game. It's a completely different beast, and it's a game that a lot of tea companies play, and I think it's if that's your route, amazing, go for it. For us, we deliberately didn't want to go into supermarkets because we directly import our tea. As soon as we get it in, that's when we blend, that's when we pack. Some things are kept in cooler environments. We separate out all our ingredients so there's no cross-contamination of aromatics. And we ship out nearly as soon as we blend and pack. We want to deliver the freshest and best quality tea possible. And who knows, if it's sitting in a supermarket, where it is in that supply chain, what warehouses, and what delivery trucks, and how long it might be sitting on a supermarket shelf before actually someone gets that product.
That's incredible. You've created the term tea sommelier, and I want to hear more about that.
Yeah. So when I when I first started out, like there was no tea sommelier. I had Caesar's Palace hear about me. We were working with Wolfgang Puck. Wolfgang Puck had a restaurant at Caesar's Palace, and like, we love your tea program. Where do you get it from? Like, you got to meet Steve. I met with them, and they're like, is there such thing as a tea sommelier? And I don't know what it was, like Ask Jeeves at the time, or Yelp, or one of these, like
Ask Jeeves.
Do you know Ask Jeeves?
Yeah, yes, yeah. I know Ask Jeeves. Holy.
Yeah. So I was like looking around trying to see like what is out there, and there was nothing out there. And so I said, listen, there's nothing out there, but let's create it. And I knew a lot about tea back then, and I just become a huge tea nerd and diving into like old texts and figuring out like what I can be able to offer. So they'd fly me out once a month for a year and a half, training someone for 1 to 2 day periods on how to be the first tea sommelier in the United States.
Wow.
And
that's unbelievable.
Yeah. And she's now the general manager at Nobu in Miami, which is pretty cool. It's cool seeing her, and great tea program there, by the way.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
What do you spend most of your time doing right now in the business after so many years?
So I recently moved to South Florida, helping to open up and expand our presence here. We did an analysis on where we're seeing the greatest growth, and we identified the East Coast as the greatest opportunity because we're a West Coast based company, born and raised out of Los Angeles, California. And now there's an opportunity for us to expand in the East Coast. And so we moved here about a year ago, my wife and our 3 kids. And so part of that is exploring. We just found a location. We're starting to build out that location. So what does that presence, what does that impact look like for being able to manufacture authentically as a local tea company here in the South Florida market? Wow. And being able to expand throughout the East Coast and the distribution model for the Central and South American market as well.
That's so interesting. I used to basically buy bulk tea for our juice business, because we used to sell tea in all the locations. And I was never able to go and like see the suppliers. Like, it wasn't like an option for me. I wanted to go and I wanted to do the mixing. I wanted to do that. I wanted to get my hands, in not physically, but you know what I mean. Yeah. And it was never available. And now, I'm so curious to why, there's so much intention really around building these facilities and creating the teas like locally, and so that you can control the process. When I feel like so much of tea is just like wholesale orders from whatever supplier or whatever, and then they put their own branding on it.
Yeah.
But you've taken a completely different approach, which is probably more expensive. There's more risk involved. Why do you choose to go that path when developing your teas?
Yeah, I think quality will always outpace a commodity. You drive a beautiful car, you're wearing nice clothing. Like you can get a t-shirt from Costco and or you can get a really high-end beautiful t-shirt that just happens to fit just right from another brand that you love and trust. And that there's something about the details as you sit in your car, how the stitching is, how the steering wheel feels, that how it's made, and the story and how the feeling behind it helps you feel a bit more connected to what you're doing. So for us, as we're we want to control the entire supply chain. So that way we can stand behind our quality guarantee that it is from the top 1% to 2% of all teas that are produced in the world with ethical standards, with high quality taste impact. And at the end of the day, it's got to be good for you as well. And if we had someone else do that, just going back, if we had someone else do that, I feel like I would lose some of that essence. Sure. And there are a lot of tea companies out there that have it manufactured for them, and who knows where they are on the supply chain. And that's a smart route if you're looking for a quick scale where you're baking into the system something that could be manufactured for you and distributed for you. I want to know where their strengths are. I want to know where the bottlenecks are, and find those improvements and encourage our team. I love that Mark Cuban call that you had. Mm-hmm. And there's a quote that he said that really stood out to me. He said, "I'm not in the babysitting business. I'm in the coaching business." And I love that quote, because if I find myself, or if my team happens to be babysitting and dealing with the same conversations over and over again with team members where they're just not moving forward, we have to switch our own hats and realize, okay, we're here as coaches, we're here as leaders. What can we do to help empower our team to make executive decisions, not just come with problems, but come with solutions as well?
Wow. What's up, founder to founder fam? I just want to quickly pause here and thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of this journey. Starting a podcast is no joke, and the fact that hundreds of you listen every single week means the world to us. We want to continue to bring better and different and unique conversations to you to give you the most amount of value. Our only ask is that if you enjoy the pod, to please just share it with a friend, and most importantly, leave a comment, DM us, give us any sort of feedback. This entire production is for you, so if we can make it just 1% better, we will. We love you all. All right, let's get back into the pod. What is one thing you had to unlearn about your journey in terms of leadership, entrepreneurship over the years that you had to unlearn that was maybe deeply rooted in you?
Aaron, it's every day I have to unlearn it. It's every day. And honestly, it's breaking through my own limited belief of abundance. So
where does that come from for you? Where do you think the limiting belief stems?
I grew up really well off until I was around age 12. My parents had a nasty divorce. And so at that point, my parents were like, okay, you figure it out. So they sent me to boarding school. And I was a good kid. I went to private school. I had they called me Stanford Hope when I was a young kid. And then my parents had a bad divorce. And then it was a battle of money between the two of them. They sent me to go live with my brother. And so throughout, after 8th grade and middle school, I went to go live with my brother in high school. So it's just him and I. And I remember calling my dad saying, I can't eat. Like, I don't have money. I was eating country crock, which is like margarine and bread, for a whole summer.
Jeez.
And Tucson, Arizona. I didn't know anyone in Tucson. I was like, can you help? He's like, do you live in a neighborhood? I said, yeah. He said, are there neighbors in the neighborhood? I said, yeah. Are there houses? I said, yeah. So are there lawns? I said, yeah. I said, go knock on their doors, see if they can, if you can mow their lawns, if you can wash their windows, whatever it is. It's like, I've never done that, Dad. Like, we had a live-in housekeeper. I don't know how to clean houses. And he hung up the phone. So I did that. I ended up knocking on doors. I remember one of the first doors was this cute girl around my age, and I fully blushed. It was so hard. Can I clean your house? It was like, really. But I think at that point, it was sort of this mentality of like, things are going to go to shit. I'm going to be homeless. And what can I do to not be in that mindset? So every day I have to slay that freaking dragon. I have to get out of that mindset. And if I start focusing on abundance, if I start focusing on that Hashem, the creator, the ultimate power is giving us, and just so eager and ready. Sorry, I don't know if this is like too weird or too foo-foo or too deep or whatever, but if the if the creator really wants us to be as successful as possible, if the creator created us to fully live our full potential and give us every tool imaginable to be successful, then who am I to lessen the belief that I can't live up to my full potential, and that I can't live in a life of full abundance, that I can't live in a life of really giving as much as possible. So if I start my day with a little bit of giving, charity, tzedakah, whatever you want to call it, even a little bit, just to soften the ethos in the world, that helps get me out of the mindset of like taking and the fear of potentially like lack of abundance. And it gets me in a mindset of starting to create abundance. And then from there, it's a practice, a ritual of prayer. And I know that that can look different for everyone, meditation, but it's breaking through those like old scar tissue of whatever might be in my way. And there's multiple things. We all have things as founders that might be in our way. And this is one of the major things. So it's not something that happened a long time ago that I'm proud of, that I was able to work through. It's something on a daily basis that I have to go up and battle against.
It's so powerful. You know, in my keynote, I put the picture of the elephant up with the little rope around.
We talk about that.
You know, about the elephant, right? And I use it. That's literally a full slide. And I'm always surprised because I ask everyone in the crowd, sometimes, 100 people or 1,000 or 5,000. I say, raise your hand if you've seen this before. And very few ever have, which is always super interesting. And for those who are listening, it's the idea of a limiting belief. And you go to a elephant sanctuary and you see these big elephants, tied to a little string on a little peg. And you must ask yourself, what is going on? But it's oftentimes because the elephant was held back in its youth. And that little string was strong enough to hold back the elephant. But now that it's a full-grown 10,000 pound, whatever elephant that can probably take a tree with it, it just learned that it couldn't. And then it never challenged that limiting belief. And what you're talking about is so much of our limiting beliefs are created and are actually cemented in our youth through traumatic, deeply rooted events. In your case, a divorce that led to boarding school that actually led to a very strong pivot in quality of life, which I can resonate with because I had a very similar story in a very short amount of time as well. When, I always tell people I've seen what it's like to have money and what it's like to not have money. And I choose having money every single time because it's so much better than not. But as a kid, what you learn is that it can all go away so fast. And it's a belief that is almost unbreakable because it's just so true. Like it's a belief that if you were to say it's not true, you're lying to yourself. So, I'm curious about now, you mentioned a practice of, giving, which is incredible practice where you can, give to receive, but also give because you create space to receive. Is there anything else that you're doing now? So many years in business, so many years achieving success, so many years building a family, doing all the things that I'm sure you set out as a young boy to change for yourself. Are you living out now, in a way, what you probably said to yourself when you were a kid, the way you would live? Are you living your manifestation?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a rabbi.
Wow.
So that was sort of the path that I mentally wanted to go on. And when I started to fall in love with tea, I realized this is beyond religion, beyond race, beyond gender, beyond age. This is something that can impact more people's lives. And so I've taken the spiritual religious side and adopted it more on a personal and family level. And I've taken the ability to hopefully connect with people on a deeper level as a product that people can connect with. The doctor I studied with said, when you see someone slipping in the mud, you hand them a stick. You don't hand them your hand, because if you hand them a stick, it's a tool that they can use to be able to dig themselves out. If you hand them your hand, they could potentially pull them in. And going back to the, that dragon that I have to slay on a daily basis, if I see that more as a friend and not as an enemy. If you think about some of your closest friends, they pick on you, they tease you, they challenge you in different ways, and they're there because they love you. They're picking on you and teasing because they love you. And so in the same way, whatever that childhood trauma, that limiting thing that's holding you back, if you see it as a friend and you overcome it, then it's blue sky. I mean, the world is really for your taking. And there's no lack of abundance out there. Like in terms of giving, if you come from the mindset, even if you look at your lungs, right? Our lungs, we breathe in, but we're able to breathe out so much more. When I did that, so Ben Holtz exercises with you in your sauna, so much of the exercise was focused on really long breaths out. And just when I'm like, I can't breathe out anymore. I can't breathe out anymore. And you realize you have so much more that you can breathe out. In the same way, if you give and you give and you give, and then you get. If you focus on, I'm not going to give until I get a certain amount. Like I just don't believe that it works that way. Some of the most generous people I know are coming from a place of, one, of mental abundance, and two, of just pure giving. And things happen to come from them. One of the most successful people that I know and deeply admire is this guy, Emil Fish, born in a Holocaust, born in a concentration camp, born in a freaking concentration camp. I was at a Passover dinner with him, and he was, at this point, he was in his mid-70s. I'm sitting like, it's this close to him. And I'm like, Emil, I have to ask, because he's extremely successful. How did you do it? And he looks at me and he smiles and he like keeps eating. And I'm like, fuck, dude, he didn't hear me. So I'm like, Emil, I really admire what you've done with your life. I'm curious, like, how did you do it? Again, he looks up and he smiles and he keeps eating. I'm like, okay, a minute goes by. I'm like, I'm going to regret it if I don't ask him one more time. I'm like, I turn to him again and I'm like, Emil, I wanted to ask you. He's like, Steven, with this thick Hungarian accent. I'm telling you, you smile.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much more comes to you. And I'm going to switch back to my accent. Yeah. It's amazing how much more comes to you when, with bankers, with your employees, with vendors, when you just smile. People want to work with people that are happy. People want to work with people that are healthy. And if you smile, it just radiates out something that people want to be around and connected with.
Wow. That is so powerful. I know it reminds me of a great story, and I want to say it, but I'll butcher it, but I'll say it anyways. And for those of you in the comments, just forgive me, or search it up. You'll fill in the blanks, because this story was only told to me once, and I will probably never forget it. And the long story short was, I was in Tulum during Passover, and I never did Passover really. As a kid I did, but in my adult life, no. And you know, the local like rabbi was like, you got to do it. And I'll never forget. He sends me like an urgent text. He's like, are you home? I need to come to your house. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? This is like a day before Passover. And for a lot of people who don't know what Passover is, you know, it's a very high holiday in Judaism, but it's also one where you have to like, you know, frantically clean your home and get rid of all the bread. And there's a lot of rituals to it. You know, it's a lot of work for a family during Passover.
Stressful.
And literally the night before, he knocks on my door in full of sweat. And I'm like, what happened? Are you okay? And he goes, okay, I just need one thing from you. And I'm like, what is it? He's like, you got to promise me that you'll keep Passover this year. Oh, wow. I'm like, are you kidding me? Wow. Is that what you're going to do right now? And it ended up being the most, and I did, because what an amazing effort on his part. But in doing so, I met this incredible person who flew in from New York and told a story, which I want to share. And I hope it resonates with everybody. And it was a story of the great Rabbi. And for a lot of people who don't know what that is, he just, you know, everyone can read his book. He's influenced and has helped so many people. It's just a powerful, powerful story. But he was very highly regarded in the Chabad, but also in Judaism. And the long story short was he was taking donations. And he asked people, who wants to be very wealthy? And everyone, you know, raised their hand. He's like, who wants to be like crazy, crazy, crazy wealthy? Like money coming out of everywhere. And only like 5 people kept their hand up because they thought it was a trick, you know? And he's like, great. So for those who want to remain and reach that level of wealth, give me a donation right now that makes you so uncomfortable, like so uncomfortable where you like almost want to throw up giving it to me. And, you know, a few of them were like, oh my God. But one of the guys and a few of them actually wrote a check for everything he had in his bank account. Wow. And at the time, I'm going to get the number wrong, but I think it was like a few $1,000s. Everything he had, and he had 5 children. And he gave him the check. And the next day he comes, goes to his wife. He goes, we have no money. Like, you know, I gave all my money to the rabbi. And he went to the rabbi. He's like, I gave you my money. Now what? What are we going to do? And he said, great. Now double it. And he goes, I can't do that. I don't have it. He's like, yeah, double it. It'd be so uncomfortable. And long story short, I think he like mortgaged the house and ended up doubling it. He owned a plastics manufacturing company at the time. And within a few weeks, he gets a call from his largest competitor saying that their factory burned down. And if they want to buy whatever's left of the burnt things, that he can do so for pennies on the dollar. And he's like, okay. Goes into this factory. After they ended up cleaning up, they realized that the factory nothing was broken. Everything was perfectly fine. And fast forward to today, they're the largest plastic manufacturing company, I think, in the world.
Wow.
And it's a very, very famous family. And the root of it is like, you know, sometimes you just have to give and not know what the other side is going to be, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't have. And my mom would do that all the time. Like as kids, you know, I couldn't get the new hockey stick because it was like $200. And then like, you know, we're walking on the street and she's like giving money to homeless people and like making food for families on Shabbat. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I can't even get the new stick. And you're like, I know you don't have money. And she just didn't care, you know? And I look at her life and just like, no matter how bad things got or how good things got, she always had abundance. So there's so much power in giving.
I don't know who needed to hear that. I definitely needed to hear that.
It's super powerful.
And what is your, I know you shared an amazing story about the car, the relationship with your mom and the car. I'm curious, like I hate to use the word made it, because I don't know if you feel like you've made it, like, but let's say you're in a more comfortable place than you were pre-sale, right? What does your relationship with your mom look like now, knowing that, in terms of, as we're talking about abundance, as we're talking about giving?
You know, I grew up with virtually zero limiting beliefs. And I know I talk about them a lot now.
Wait, sorry, you have 4 brothers?
4 brothers.
Do all 4 brothers have the same lack of limiting beliefs?
No.
Or, okay. So is this baked into your DNA? Like how is it that you have that mindset, but sorry, I'm going off in different tangents.
No, it's a very good question.
Same DNA, same.
I think all of us have, you know, different upbringings because, you know, my 3 other brothers were born in Israel. They came over. My parents lived in an apartment with 3 young kids. Then I was the 4th, but we got a house. Then during my early childhood, my mom had a lot of money. So I grew up nice from like 8 to 15, 14. The other brothers were already in their 20s, and, you know, so it was a little bit different for them. So we all had different we had different childhoods for sure. But what I say, I obviously have limiting beliefs, but I never got the opportunity to believe them. And what I mean by that is my mom, you know, one thing, and my dad, one thing they've done so well is they always gave us the confidence to do whatever we wanted to do. And, you know, looking now, there's 5 of us. We're all business owners, different businesses, the same business. And it's kind of like funny in that way, but none of us are really educated. None of us have a degree. None of us went to a good school. None of us are valedictorians. None of that. None of the traditional methods of like intelligence. But we have an unrelenting belief that I can do anything. And the reason why I believe I can do anything is because my mom always reminded us that we could. And then she would show us that she could. It's a very important thing that, you know, she wasn't just saying we were great. She was saying it to herself too. And we would see it in real time. You know, she didn't speak or write English, and she had a multi-million-dollar company. She didn't know how to write an email, didn't know how to read a contract. But she didn't let that stop her. You know, so as kids, oftentimes we listen, but more often or not, we watch. And no matter how many people came after her, or my dad, or said they were stupid or not good, or, you know, my hockey team would send email updates. My dad didn't know how to work an email, so I'd show up like late and stuff, and they'd be like, "You didn't get the email update?" And nope. You know, but it wasn't like he sat there like, oh, I'm an idiot, I don't know email. He just like, so what? Let's go, get on the ice, let's play. You know, wow. So we got to watch that. And so I have many limiting beliefs, but every time I'm faced with them, I know in the back of my head, it's like, I literally could do anything with this life. So why should I continue and act and feel as if that's not true?
And how do you, what's your routine like where I'm turning it around because I'm just as curious about you as you are. I mean,
yeah.
Like, is this a daily practice where you have to overcome it, or is it a weekly thing? And like,
oh, it's 100 times a day.
Yeah. Right.
It's 100 times a day. I think any
people might look at you and be like, oh, he's got this, he's got that. Like,
yeah, what
could possibly be in his way? And in your mind, you're 100 times a day, you're battling.
Yeah. Yeah. More probably. I think everything is hard, but I choose not to live my life through that perspective. I appreciate the hard, and I'm so lucky to get to do this. This life, the life of an entrepreneur, is the most difficult path that anybody can choose, but it's hands down the best way to live your years on earth. No question about it. Regardless if you make $1 or you make millions of dollars or billions of dollars, it is the best way to live your years on earth because you get to drive the bus, and you might drive it off of a cliff, but at least when you're falling off the cliff about to land face first, at least you know you drove it instead of being in the back of the bus and have someone else drive you off the cliff. It's a way different feeling. And for me, that's why I believe entrepreneurs are the most inspiring people on earth, because they learn so much. You've flew to Japan, you're building your own facilities, you created terms of Sommelier, you've sold all over the world. Like, most people don't get to say that. You know, most people don't get to write a book about their life's work. Most people don't get to go through a traumatic event with their mother, which they love so much, and then build from that. Only entrepreneurs can do that. So yes, it's tough every single day. And you have no clue what tomorrow is going to look like. But you believe, you know, and you know, if you chip away and do the work every day, that you'll eventually get results. It's inevitable. You know, playing hockey, going off a little bit on a tangent, playing hockey, our coach would always, at least at the higher levels, the coach would circle a few players on the other team to watch out for. And you would think that it would be the player with the most goals or the best player or whatever, but everyone knew those guys. He would circle usually 2 to 3 people and say, these people never give up. They're so annoying. So he would say, yeah, he's like, so don't even like stay away from them. They love it. You'll rattle them up. They love it. They love the game. They love the battle. Stay away from them. They won't give up. And we would stay away from those people. And because they'd kill you, because you just, no matter what you did, they loved it. They loved the war. Wow. They loved the battle. And I view that as like, that's the definition of a successful entrepreneur. One that, like, no matter what you do, wakes up and comes back at 100 miles an hour every day, regardless of the outcome, regardless of what they tell themselves, and they battle. And that's the beauty of it. By
the way, I just want to give permission for those that might be familiar. There was a great, it was in Slack. By the way, we created a signature blend for Slack. They asked us to create a tea blend. We have a Slack tea blend that they give out to the employees.
That is so cool. But we got to do one for the Founders Club.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. We should totally do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Isn't that genius?
All right.
Founders Club blend. We should include it in the welcome box.
Great. And maybe we can focus on things that help founders, like overcoming obstacles. Like, we could just look at all the neuropic kind of things that are around.
It's genius. Okay, tell me.
Okay. But someone mentioned on Slack, like, hey, I'm having a really hard time. I don't know if you mentioned, this was probably like maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
I do remember this.
Remember that?
Yes.
And just the community was like, bro, I got you. I've been there. And he was just saying, like, I've like these dark days, like I'm having a really hard time. The hard part is it's lonely sometimes. You're like, cause if you're working with other people that don't have their own businesses, what do you talk about? You can't shit talk your boss. You can't, talk about like, like I had to stay a little bit later for work. Like, you're pulling in long hours, you're pulling in hard work, you're taking risks that feel really scary at times, if not daily. But I just want to give permission. Like, if you're feeling that darkness, like, rather than shove it away, like, face it. And when I mean face it, and I'm talking to myself here, right? And maybe someone that might be listening, if not now, maybe 100 years from now, that they can take a look at that and just watch it fully blossom and die. So as you're watching that fear, that darkness, don't label it. Just literally sit there and witness the sensation, the feelings, and you realize this thing that might be pulling you down is literally just, again, going back to that friend, it's literally there just to show you something, that a case, a scenario, an incident that may or may not actually exist, and just welcome it, thank it, and let it flower and die, and then get up and move on.
Wow. I love that. You're talking about dealing with the fear and the trials and tribulations, and you traveled across the world with $1,000 on a credit card to source.
By the way, I couldn't even believe someone gave me $1,000 on a credit card. That was a lot of money. Like, wow.
You know, was that the craziest thing you did when you had no money?
So I was given an opportunity to take a full-time job, a 6-figure salary, or start our own company. And this is like less than a year within our marriage. And we had a child on the way that's sitting on the couch. And
you were on the way.
Yeah, you're on the way. And so my wife and I were like, her name's Lital. My wife Lital and I were trying to figure out, like, okay, what do we do? There's this great opportunity, or I could do the crazy thing of starting our own tea company. And I applied for a credit card and I got $1,000. I'm like, I can't believe these guys don't even know me. They're giving me $1,000. I don't know if it was like MasterCard or
How old were you
Visa
at
or
the
something.
time?
28, maybe something like that. 29. And I have a lot more gray hair now. So I had to figure out, and still today figure out, like, what's our why? Like, why do we want this to work? And so we wrote down 21 reasons why we need and want this to work.
Wow. And
so the craziest thing, I think, was going from a potentially nice, cushy job offer with insurance and all that stuff, and again, a baby on the way, to starting our own thing in my mother-in-law's living room where we were living at the time.
Wow.
And the number one reason that I circled and had next to my desk and I just would look at it, is that we had a baby on the way. I just needed to do whatever I could. That was my why. I need to do everything I can to be able to help make sure that I provide for this being, this child on the way. And the other thing I did was I created an org chart with my name in every single position that I thought would exist in an organization. And I would look at it and I'd say, what do I fucking hate doing that I suck at? And are there people out there that would love doing the things that I suck at? And then I'd find them. Surprisingly, I was shocked that someone would want to do the stuff that I hate doing. And I would just put my name out and I put their name in, and I would just start filling up the org chart. And so hiring is also really freaky, right? How do you know that this person's going to work out? How do you know that you're going to be the best boss possible? How do you know that you're going to create an incredible place for people to work? And so the fears don't necessarily go away. I don't know if I answered your question fully, but that was sort of probably one of the scariest things. So just leaning in on starting it. And by the way, things open up for you. What I realized is, if I'm vulnerable, I'm like, hey, I'm just starting out, or I'm just doing that, I'm new to this. People lean in and they're like, well, let me help you. Oh my gosh, you're just starting out. I'm sure even with the studio that we're at, like, if, when they first started, there was probably people like, oh my gosh, I love the concept. I want to work with you. That vulnerability becomes a superpower.
Wow. The power of vulnerability. I mean, I totally resonate with that. I used to DJ, and I kind of lied on my resume that I was DJing all over the world when I wasn't. I've never even been all over the world. I was like 17. And,
we were in Israel a little bit.
Yeah,
so
I think I was like, yeah.
On a plane.
I've listened to the DJ, I think, one time. And I remember, like, I pulled up to a wedding and I'm DJing the wedding. I've never DJ'd before. And the guy says some DJ term to me. I don't remember, but I gave him a look and he realized oh my God, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I think he said cue up the song, and I was like, what? And I'll never forget that one of the dancers, because they have these dancers.
That was me, by the way, in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
He realized I had no clue what was going on.
Oh God.
And he kind of came over and he's like, yo, you don't know what you're doing. And I was like, no. He's like, all right, like, I'll tell you. And like, I'll come back. And he kept loading up the songs for me. And I would just play. And he would look at me and I'd play. Like, he'd give me the thing. And if it wasn't for him, like, it would have been, first of all, they would have had a horrible wedding. But it would have been, like, I never would have ended up DJing. But because of him, I was like, wait, I can actually do this a little bit. And ended up like DJing, and it funded my first business. And it was like all because like that one person. And I looked at him, I was like, I had no clue what I'm doing. And if I was like, no, I'm good, I would have ruined their entire wedding. So it would have been, the power of being vulnerable in moments when, you do need help and you do need other people to kind of give you some grace.
And you're the DJ at Founder Club right now. And you still, I'm sure there's times like, I don't know what I'm doing, but you're bringing on, how are you attracting really great talent that's buying into you as this DJ?
The truth is, I don't know. I really don't know. Yesterday,
if you did know, what would you say?
If I did know, I think so many entrepreneurs are feeling lonely, and a lot of communities are built for people pretending they're not. Right? It's the fancy cars and the house, and come to my beach club, and come to this, and come to that. And there's lots of fun in that. There's nothing wrong with that. And we love to have a good time. But I think the truth of why you need to be around like-minded people is because you want to be able to talk about the things that you don't want to talk about online or with a random stranger or with someone who wouldn't get it. I'll never forget when I, sold my business. I went to, a couple of my friends, and I was like, it kind of sucks right now. Every single person's coming at me for shit. And they're like, dude, give me that all day. Like, give me that. Like, not what I have. Like, give me that. Give me the money, and I'll fend people off, And it wasn't like I went to people that like, were in similar positions or been through this moment where they're like, oh, do that last 3 months, you're good. And like, that's all I needed to hear. I was like, oh, last 3 months, you're good. And I was like, cool, last 3 months. And if like it was it, like the whole, like a balloon, all the air just came right out of me. But everyone else was like, just be grateful. Like, you should be happy. Like, what's wrong with you? And like, I get that too, because that's their perspective. But there's nothing like the power of being surrounded by like-minded people who are on the same path. Yeah, who get it and who have no horse in your race, who have zero horse in your race. There's no benefit to them steering me any direction other than the truth. Wow. And that's the power of true community, because no one really benefits from, if your business goes 1,000x next year, it doesn't hurt anyone in the club. Everyone's just happy. Yeah, that's great. It doesn't hurt anyone, but like the people you maybe have grown up with or you've known for a long time, it doesn't hurt them, but like they're like, oh, why not me? And there's a little bit of that energy. And that's, so I think we're attracting a lot of the same type of people, a lot of the like-minded individuals who are trying to have an impact in the world and support their family and build for generations.
That's beautiful. Keep going.
That's what we like to. That's what we like to think, And you were what I think our original like 100 in our first 100. So
how many members are you got right now?
About 500.
Wow.
So
it's amazing, and you're just scratching the surface.
We're just being intentional, It's 300 applications a week.
Wow.
And we probably accept, I want to say between 3 and 7.
Wow.
Depending on the week, depending on the people. And people ask, well, what's required? Of course, you have a business and there's business requirements, but we just like to get to know people. It's either there'd be a good fit. A cheat code, I say, if you come in and you think it's a marketing opportunity, it's probably not a good fit. But if you come in really trying to connect with people, it works. So I want to know, you mentioned your mom, you mentioned a story a little bit about your dad. As your business kind of has grown over the years and you started your own family, who's here with us today, I want to know how you approach being a father and a husband when it relates to your business, because being in business for a long time, having success, traveling, all of the above, taking massive risks, does it affect the way you show up as a father, and how do you go about that intentionally?
Yeah. Great freaking question. I love what your mom did in terms of just raising the belief that your kids can do anything, but it sounds like each of you guys have a sense of grit of wanting to go after it. And something that my wife and I always talk about is like, we had to really work hard And things, especially with AI, things are just coming a bit easier for this next generation. Like, how do you install that level of grit where things aren't so easy? And how do you instill that level of wanting to really make an impact in this world? And so it's an ongoing conversation. But the thing I'm most grateful for with our family and with my wife, we didn't grow up keeping Shabbat. Shabbat is basically the Sabbath. You take a day off. And for us, we started when we had our first child, and she was like a few months old. Actually, she was around 1. And at this stage, like, I was still driving, doing deliveries. Our living room, my mother-in-law's living room, where we were producing our tea out of and living in her home, was our place for delivery, sales, marketing, accounts receivable. It was basically my cell phone, everything, right? So I needed to be on Friday night to Saturday night in the hospitality industry, especially. Like, people needed to be able to reach me. So keeping Shabbat meant, like, I had to not drive. That was the first thing. And then it went from not driving to, okay, well, I'm going to not answer calls, but I'll answer texts. And then it went to, like, all right, she's old enough where she's going to start realizing that we have to do something. We have to create a clear line in the sand. It's like, okay, I'm no longer in text. We're just going to turn tech off completely. And so adjusting, like, our friends, like, it was hard for them. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, you're doing this weird thing. But that was probably one of the best things that we did as a family. It was just one day a week, and still is today, one day a week, where we were able to just fully take off of tech and just sit and talk and be, and we can regroup on what happened on Wednesday and what happened on, like, Thursday afternoon that I didn't get a chance to talk to you about. And our kids can ask questions, and we can share, like, what we're working on. So I'd say as a father, as a husband, as a business leader, doing a one-day full reboot and recharge has been probably the best thing for my business.
Wow. That's magical.
Yeah. Sorry, just really quick. I heard a podcast with the guy from Chick-fil-A who said that everything needs to rest for a day. So for them, it's Sunday.
Yes,
so
they close on Sundays.
Yeah, but even the machinery, they said, needs to rest. Everything needs to just chill and some of their outlets do far greater business than McDonald's. And and that's operating 6 days out of the week compared to 7 days out of the week.
Wow.
So there is something to be said about just that, giving yourself that creative space, that mind space, that recharge, that day of rest.
If your mother can see the way you are now as a father, what do you think she would say?
I think that she would say that she's proud of me. And you're going to have to edit this probably because there's long pauses.
Take your time.
I don't know what she would say. She would, yeah, she's a Jewish mom, so I'd hear more complaints probably than compliments. So,
what do you think would surprise your mother the most about who you've become?
I'd say consistent. Being an entrepreneur for me meant constantly coming up with amazing ideas and this idea and that idea and this idea. So I think sticking with one thing, having a healthy, strong family and relationship. One of my goals was to outpace my parents. They were married for 21 years and we just crossed that threshold.
Nice. Congrats.
Thanks. Yeah. I think that she would say that she was proud of me for being a good father, being a good husband, and being just a good contributor to society.
I think that's good. That's awesome. One of the questions we always ask on the pod is if you were able to bring here, sitting at the table, a younger version of yourself. So that could go, you can go to any age. Some people go 5 years old, some people go 30, it doesn't matter. To a younger version of yourself, if you're able to bring that Steve over here, what age Steve would you bring here? And what is one thing you would share with that younger person or that younger version of yourself today?
I remember vividly after my mom passed, just the wild exposure of not being accountable to a parent Like there's no one that I needed to prove anything to, no one that I needed to share, like what, and it came with a mixed reality, right? On one hand, my mom was the one that helped keep me accountable for how I act and how I show up in this world. And when that responsibility center gets taken away, who are you really ultimately responsible for? And I needed to show up fully for being responsible for myself. And so I would turn back at that 20-year-old and I would invite that 20-year-old to the table and I would welcome them to full exploration of themselves, of the world, to be able to travel, to be able to see, to be able to interact, and to allow more trust in the process and make less room for fear and more room for trust.
Wow. That's super profound. You know, a lot of guests have come on and shared different messages with their younger self, but I think that is just awesome. Wow.
What are some of the things that they shared?
People have said, like, you know,
well, get to it. Yeah. Get over your ass.
You know, people have said, you know, they would tell themselves that they're enough. You know, they would share with themselves that it's going to be okay. They would share with themselves that it might suck right now, but it's going to get really good, I promise. You know, because a lot of people, like you actually just did, is they go back to a life-defining moment. And you went back to the defining moment that you shared in the beginning of the pod, which was the passing of your mother. And, you know, that shaped who you are in so many different ways. But what you just shared, I'm going to reiterate it for those who are listening, because I think it's super profound. Like, my brain just like exploded and I was like, holy shit, I've never actually thought of life like that, where it's like, what would your life look like if you weren't accountable to your parents? And no one ever thinks of that. I've never thought of that for a second. And most people might believe that they're not accountable to their parents. I'm a grown-up, you know, I'm an adult, you know. It's like, well, in a way you are accountable because you speak to them often, you know. They've developed a construct for how you view and live out your life. And it's such a powerful perspective to, like, wait, I'm not accountable to anyone anymore. That's very powerful. The next question we always ask is, if you were to fast forward to the end of your life, all the way to the end, you know, at 119 years old and 365 days, and you want to be remembered. And the reason why I asked this question, for those listening, I've explained it a few times, but for those who are listening just to this episode, the reason why I asked this question is because it's a form of actual creating a reverse manifestation. So a forward-looking manifestation is people's like, this is what I want in the future. But a reverse manifestation is, okay, I'm at the end now. What do I want to be remembered for? And then the reason why it's called a reverse manifestation is like, okay, am I acting and living today as if that is going to be true or not? So I'm curious, you know, if you were to fast forward to the end of your life, you know, what do you want to be known for and remembered for at the end?
I'm smiling because it reminds me of a joke. I promise I won't offend anyone here, but there's a pastor, a priest, and a rabbi. Already not a good start, but they asked the question, like, what do you want people to say at your funeral? And so the pastor says, I want them to say that I was a good friend. I was a good listener. I was always there for them, and you know, really a trusted source of friendship. Father, what about you? He says, well, you know, I want people to say at my funeral that I built community. I built churches. I built schools. I brought people together, and I built these institutions in phenomenal, huge ways. Rabbi, what about you? What do you want people to say at your funeral? And he said, I want them to say, he's moving.
Yeah.
So in other words, this call for life, this is a desire for life. It's hard for me to think that there is an end.
Yeah.
I want at 120 for me to be freaking playing with my great grandkids. Just went to a ninja gym with my daughter last night and crawling around on monkey bars. And I want to be able to just be mobile and agile. Now, how do I want to be remembered? I want the positive characteristics and attributes to be carried on to my future generations, where they may know that it came from me, or they may not know that it came from me, but somehow they've carried on those traits that will continue to leave a lasting impact in their lives, in their families, and in their communities.
Wow. That is mega profound. Wow. Then Ned does this thing. For those you can't see, he does this thing where he goes like this. Whenever it's like a really good point. He's like he's listening to an R&B rap song or something. He's like, what is one thing, where as we approach the end, that a message that you'd want to share with the world that maybe we didn't cover, or something that you really want to get out there?
Well, who am I speaking to here? Am I speaking to founders? Am I speaking to people wanting to be founders? Am I speaking to people that are investors in founder? Like what?
You're speaking to like-minded individuals, people just like you.
Okay. I think the sense of wonder is one of our most positive human attributes. I think that AI has allowed us the ability to build apps, has allowed us the ability to bring our tribe and our community, whether you're having a service-based business, SaaS-based business, a product-based business, there's ways that you can build tribe and community around what you're doing, where you can play and you can execute and pull those levers and those prompts in unbelievable ways. And if you could turn Netflix off for a little bit, if you could turn, and I don't know if they're a sponsor, if you can turn Hulu off for a little bit, if you can turn these different distractions off for a little bit and just dive into the creative power that you have at this moment in time to be able to bring your tribe closer with technology and with the product and service that you're offering, only you can do that. And the reason why I say only you can do that is because there's oftentimes I find myself like, man, there's got to be someone now that can do this better and smarter and faster than me. But man, no, you would not be in the situation that you're in if there wasn't someone that could do it better, different than you. Like, lean in on your talents, lean in on what you're here to do, get out of your own fucking way and make it happen.
I love that. I've got one last selfish question.
Yeah, please.
What is going on with matcha?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I gotta know.
Okay.
Because is it just like, this is my judgment. I'm gonna put it out there in the world and you gotta tell me, okay? People are just like found a new way to absorb sugar. They're putting like strawberries and tiramisu and caramel. And it's like, it's just to make it green for that? Like, well, tell me what is going on. Is it a TikTok thing? Is TikTok making matcha farmers stressed out? What is it? What is going on with the matcha?
So I was invited by the government of Japan about 10 years ago to go meet with growers and farmers, a full red carpet. Like, they flew me and 3 other companies around the world, someone from Germany, someone from France, someone from England.
Wow.
And we met with all these different growers and farmers. And what I realized was that the average age of a farmer in Japan was 60 years old. Fast forward 10 years later, the average age of a farmer is 7 years old. The global demand for matcha has spiked tremendously. Thank TikTok and thank Instagram for that, for sure. And what's happening, it's not just in the US, it's in Indonesia, it's in Germany, it's in France, it's in Dubai, all around the world, craving this ground up pulverized tea leaf particle without vein and stem from Japan, an island that has very limited supply and very limited space. You have all these farmers that have crafted 7 years of their life creating amazing tea varietals and have now changed their focus and their gears towards creating matcha. So that's one bottleneck. You have a 70-year-old population of a tea farmer. Then you have the technology. There's something called tencha, which is a phase that in order to create matcha, it has to be in a stage called tencha, where they separate leaf and vein and stem. There's one manufacturer that produces tencha and for the machinery. And so now there's a 3-year buildup and backlog of just that equipment. And in Japan, there are no rush. They're like, we make it one at a time and we can't rush this process. That's one part of it. Then you have the grinding process. Then you have just, again, the limited space of creating really high quality matcha. So you have some cheats and shortcuts. Now so I just came back from Japan because we have the same family farmer that we've been working with for decades now, like beautiful, incredible family that's been producing high quality green tea for the past 10 generations, documented. Wow. They have a book in their house where they live in the mountains in Uji, which is in Kyoto Prefecture. Here's how we've been producing. Here are the lessons and the weather conditions that we learned from generations back. Wow. So just think about that. Like, think about your great grandkids looking at your diary and your notes of the struggles and things that you were going through. So this is what's happening with matcha, that now they're starting to look at how can we cultivate this faster and produce it. So they're getting this green color, but unfortunately they're not getting the same high quality. So we need to make sure that we're sourcing high quality where you're getting. Now, why is it so popular? Well, the health attributes, you're drinking the entire leaf. So what you're drinking here with our delicious Earl Grey creme that you can get at Art of Tea is you're steeping the leaf and the leaves are pulled out. With matcha, you're consuming the entire leaf. So it's grown, it's shaded for 2 weeks to bring the chlorophyll up intact. It's separated leaf and stem, stone ground to get all the chlorophyll still stuck intact without clumping, without burning the leaf. It's just a very careful process. And you're drinking the entire leaf, meaning you get EGCGs, polyphenols, flavonoids, catechins, all this incredible health benefits combined with the rush of caffeine without the crash, because all those other health proponents combat the negative side effects. So you can actually have this beautiful lift and feel extremely clear. And it helps with skin resonance. It helps with collagen increase. There's so many health benefits behind matcha, and you don't get that weird jittery feeling or that exhaustion that often comes with double shots of espresso.
That's incredible. So are we seeing just the price going absolutely crazy?
20% lower production this year. Incredibly high demand. I went out and I took my friend Emil Fish's advice. I went out. I haven't been back to visit the factories since pre-COVID.
Wow. And
I went out. And by the way, we were starting to look at other suppliers because they told us in February when we placed our order for May, they're like, yeah, no problem. May started coming around like, we might have it in June. Late May started coming around like maybe July. Early June started to happen in like September, maybe.
Wow.
And so I flew out. I fly into Tokyo. I take a train from Tokyo, the bullet train to Shizuoka, the small little tea producing area. And the guy picks me up and we start driving, and he pulls over about 15 minutes from the train station. He's like, how long are you in town for? And I said, I haven't booked my hotel yet. I said, I'm here. And I told my team, I can't leave without matcha. And I start smiling and I'm like, so you tell me how long I need to be here. I'm here for two reasons, that. And also I feel bad. I've not spent enough time with you. I've not invested enough back. I said, we were doing it early on, and especially pre-COVID, and technology has gotten us sort of lazy connected, and we need to get reconnected. So I need to do more. And so I started meeting with his team, the suppliers and the tasters, and earning their trust and rebuilding those relationships to the point where the main guy that picked me up at the airport, he started yelling at them saying, he came all the way out here. No one else is flying out here.
Right. Like,
we're canceling customers. We have customers yelling at us saying, you better fucking get us our matcha. He's like, but he's actually here. And we wouldn't be here. Like where we were 10 years ago compared to where we are now, we're a completely different business. So we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Art of Tea.
Wow.
So get him his tea. So I didn't have to do the yelling. I was doing the smiling, and I was doing the massaging of the relationship with authentically. I want to get to know these people and story tell what they're up to and what we could be doing better or differently to help share their story and their quality narrative.
I hear a lot about the difference in quality of matcha. Talk a little bit about that. Is all matcha the same? What makes matcha good versus not good? Ceremonial blends, like the Starbucks one never tastes good to me, and it's always like, is it the $250 little can that's the best? Like, how do I know?
You got to know your supplier. That's really, really important. There are major producing areas within Japan most of matcha that's in the United States comes from, if it's from Japan, it comes from a place called Kagoshima. Kagoshima is the southernmost tip of Japan. It's got an active volcano, like literally the kids, these little cute kids, when they go to school, they wear helmets because of like volcanic debris could land. And so they're walking to school with helmets on. But that volcanic ash is also used within the soil to help produce just really fantastic tasting teas. But because it's at the southern tip and it's a very low flat plain area, it gets a tremendous amount of sun exposure. Matcha, you don't want a lot of sun exposure. So it's a cheap way of growing matcha. What makes ceremonial? Well, ideally it doesn't come from Kagoshima. And I'm probably pissing off a lot of tea companies from saying that. It should not come from Kagoshima. It's great tea comes from Kagoshima, but not for matcha. It should be vibrant green color. It should not smell fishy or taste fishy. It should not taste too bitter. And there's a fine line, Aaron, between bitter and astringent. Astringent is that dark chocolate, that shot of espresso, that hit of gin, where it has that puckery drying effect along the sides of the cheek, and it makes you call for more. It's like there's a desire for a bit more. Bitter is an offensive taste. Bitter is not something that we want. The taste umami, which is considered the ultimate taste, came from a scientist in the 60s that discovered umami. He said this ultimate taste of sweet, salt, and astringent is found in nature in two things: in seaweed and high quality green tea, such as high quality matcha.
Wow.
So the benefit of a high quality matcha is true umami, that true sweet, salt, and astringent combination.
I gotta get some of your guys' matcha.
I'll bring it. Yeah.
I wish I could drink it right now.
And we have different varietals that we pull from: Okumidori, Saimidori, Goku, which has got the sweet cream corn kind of flavor profile. But all true tea comes from Camellia sinensis. White, green, oolong, black, and pu'er all come from the same evergreen shrub. Just like wine, in order for you to have wine, it has to come from grapes. And depending on the type of grape that's used, is it from the Golan Heights? Is it from Napa? Is it from Bordeaux? All those play into crafting a different style of wine. And then there's the artisan that's making it. So yes, we believe that we're sourcing the highest quality matcha possible, but you want to make sure that it's also not moga. Moga is a new style of matcha that's coming out that's cheating a step. It looks green, so very Instagrammable, but it's not processed the traditional way of tencha, and therefore you're missing out on all those other like wonderful health and flavor proponents. So there are fakes out there. There's cheats out there. You just got to make sure that you're getting it from a really authentic source.
Wow. A masterclass in matcha. I'm telling you, it's like the rage of the town. Everywhere I go, it's like all these sugary matchas.
And people are going to be out. There was when I went to Japan, one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to visit a store where it was kind of like Apple. Remember when Apple would start rolling out their iPhones and they'd sell out whatever you got that day, fine. If it's got 256 or if it's got 5, it doesn't matter. I just want it. If it's black, but I wonder why, it doesn't matter. So the same sort of things happen with matcha. Like they're just rolling out and running out very quickly. So people are lining up at 10 o'clock in the morning to go to these shops. They go and people line up and they sell out. So it's going to be increasingly more challenging for the next 2 years.
Wow.
We're having people coming out of the woodworks. Hey, I know it's been a while. Do you happen to have matcha, like major tea suppliers, major coffee suppliers? And so we were just trying to get
during COVID.
Right? Remember
everyone was calling me.
My God.
Did you think your blanket manufacturer can make masks? I was like, I don't know. Let me ask. Turns out
That's
they could.
funny. Wow.
Everyone can make masks. Well, Steve, thank you so much for coming on the Founder to Founder pod. This was incredible. I hope you had a good time. I think people are really going to fall in love with this whole journey, because it's the true, authentic journey of being a founder. And thank you for being an awesome Founders Club member. People always love when they get to connect with you and talk with you, and we always love when you come to the events, of course. So thank you.
I love you. I love what you're doing. I think you're here to do amazing things in this world. So let me know I can continue to show up for you and your tribe.
Amazing. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Founder to Founder podcast. And I have one favor, just one favor to ask. Is the only favor I'll ever ask from you. And if you liked what you listened to please like, subscribe, and please just leave a comment. Let us know what you think, how we can make it better. We are all in on delivering value to you. And all we ask in return is that you hit that subscribe. It goes a long way for what we're trying to build here. And as always, we post an episode every single Wednesday. So stay tuned, and thank you for tuning in.